What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Terrence Pitts, aka Pitts. Pitts and Push Sports Talk Radio, Bowie TV, Pitt Sports Zone is going down. You already know what it is. Through the Eye of the Tiger, myself and Coach Bernard Clark Jr. What's going on, Coach?
Not much, man. Just maintaining ready for this game. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm doing good. Last week was a bye week,
Yes.
So what?
Yes.
Tell me what you did during your bye week.
We got a W.
Let's go 1-0.
That's it. That's the first thing we did. Now, actually, it's crazy you said that. Last week, the word of the week was opportunity, and I wanted them to take full advantage of the opportunity of getting better. Not having an opponent, but learning how to practice better, put themselves in position to make some things happen. We had a scout scrimmage, where the young guys, scrimmage on Friday. So they got to get after it a little bit for about 25 plays, and we can see where they're at as far as their progression goes. But most important thing was, like I said, guys were taking advantage of opportunities. Some guys were injured, some guys were down. So some guys stepped up and shows what they can do. So they're going to get a little more playing time this week.
So during the bye week, and you guys practice, how often can you practice during the bye week?
You can practice because it's still 20 hours, and you technically don't have a game on Saturday. So what we do is, like, after our game on Saturday, that Sunday we're off, that Monday we're off, then that Tuesday we get together, we watch the film, we practice that Wednesday and that Thursday, and then we practice that Friday morning. Then I give them Saturday and Sunday off, and then we're back on Monday. So just wanted to make sure they're resting their bodies, especially some of the guys who were banged up. We had some offensive linemen that needed a little bit of healing and stuff like that. Noah got a banged up shoulder, so Noah was able to take care of his shoulder. And so some guys were banged up, but able to get back into it. And like I said, we had an opportunity to see some of the young guys and see what they're capable of doing, see if they can learn the defense and how fast they can learn it.
So last week's word of the week was opportunity.
Yes.
And, just to go back a little bit, we were talking about basically coming off the previous week where you guys played Eastern Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And things didn't go as planned. So, last week was a bad week. Your wow was opportunity. Wow, for those who may not be familiar with the saying, is word of the week. Coach Bernard Clark often and weekly has a different word of the week to challenge, educate, and implement mental, physical, emotional, psychological studies in regards to the game as they prepare for their next and upcoming opponent, despite the previous week's win-loss column. Do you carry over that wow to this week as well, or do you have a different wow?
No, we got a new one. We got a new one this week because, like I said, wanted to take advantage of that opportunity, the opportunity of being off, letting their body heal and take care of that. The word of the week this week is responsibility. And the reason I chose that word, because there are different definitions in the book, but the one that jumped out at me was responsibility. To take an opportunity, to use what you've learned, been asked to do, and implement it without having authorization. In other words, what I'm trying to tell our guys, we've taught you how to do something. We've coached you how to do something. We shouldn't have to continuously tell you over and over and over. At some point, you got to learn it. You got to implement it. And it's your responsibility to get it done on the field. It goes back to all the words we used before, mindset, instructions, all those things that have jumped out at us. But in this situation here, it's your responsibility to take care of that. Now, I used a scene from the movie Ray. And I don't know if you remember the scene or not from the movie Ray. It's a scene where, he's sitting down at the piano, he's playing country music, and people are like, they want to hear this, they want to hear this. And the gentleman in the back says, hey, lower the lights. And when the lights lowered, everybody calmed down. And after the show was over, Ray was like, why did you lower the lights? And the guy said, because it needed to be done. And the reason he said that, because it was his responsibility to make sure that show went off without a glitch, that everybody was under control. So he didn't need to be told what to do. Ray was saying what Ray Charles said. I like to hear that people say it needed to be done, it's not my job. Right. And so when you talk about people's responsibilities, that's what I was telling our guys today. I said, look, it doesn't matter what your job is. Your responsibility is to take care of this and make sure we handle this and handle our business and implement the things you've been coached to do, you've been taught to do, and you have the talent to do. So let's go take care of those things and get it done.
And when you say, I've heard that phrase is not my job, and particularly in the sporting atmosphere, when it comes to the title leader, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what are your thoughts about when you hear football players or Well, let's just stick with football. What are your thoughts when you hear football players, especially a football player that is deemed a captain of a football team that will say, well, it's not my job to help and make sure that you guys, or it's not my job to do this.
Well, if you're a part of a team, it's your job to help us win the football game. That's the most important thing. The thing that drives me crazy when a guy said, I did my job. That's what drives me nuts when a guy says, I did my job. And like, what people don't understand is this is the ultimate team sport. Nobody can do anything without the other person. Like the
Yeah,
one thing that drives me crazy, if a DB gets beat deep for a pass and a defensive lineman opens his mouth to say that, because the first thing I say to him is, well, you sacked the quarterback. We ain't got to worry about that. So everybody's a part of this. So anybody that says that to me, no, you're a part of the team. So everything is your job. You got to make sure everybody
yeah,
understands we're all in this to win. So whatever it takes for us to win the football game, that's your job. And that's what guys have to understand. And the thing about leadership is it's so crazy. Pitts, I'm sure you've heard this before. Everybody wants to be in charge, but everybody don't want to lead. Everybody wants to be in charge, but not everybody wants to lead, because with leadership comes responsibility. There's
yeah,
certain things you got to be responsible for. You got to be responsible for certain people and certain things that happen. So everybody doesn't want that burden of being a leader, but they do want the authority to be in charge. And so that's the
yeah.
big thing more than anything else. You got to make people understand the difference between the two.
And not only that, they want to be in charge, but they don't really want word of the week, the real responsibility that come along with it. You
Absolutely.
know, they don't want the entire thing. They just want the pieces that make them feel that they have some sort of power.
Right. Right. And that's why, I always tell people, I don't know if Brady is the greatest of all time. That's irrelevant to me. But what is relevant to me is the way the man's mind works. And the man's mind works about winning football games. It doesn't work about me being the best or me doing this. Everybody knows that Tom Brady was never the highest paid quarterback in the NFL when he played, even though he should have been. But he never was, because the most important thing to him was winning
Winning.
Super Bowls. Had nothing to do with else. And he even said it the other day when people were talking about having fun in the game and stuff like that. He said, if I want to have fun, I go to Disney World with my son. He said, stress to me is not winning a Super Bowl. That's what stress is to me. So when you have that kind of mindset, a team mindset about winning the Super Bowl, not about going to the Pro Bowl, not about getting the most yards, not about getting the highest paid, when your
Right.
mindset's based on the team, that's not my job. No, that ain't
Right.
how it works. It's whatever I need to do to help the team win. That's my job. So
Right. So let's talk about last week. How important is it for you as a coach when your team is in a bye week and you see initiative and effort from your players without being asked or told by players?
I think that's extremely important. I mean, and once they understand what the bye week's all about, once they understand that I have to get better this week, I have to be more focused, even though we don't have a game. I still need to be in tune with what the game plan is going to be come next week. And they did a good job of that last week. That was the thing they were about. They were more in tune than they've been in a long time, just paying attention to what's going on in meetings on the football field. And it's coming off of a loss, so that's even more critical, because they're like, okay. And the thing about that game at EKU, we played hard. The score was 10-7 at halftime, and could have ended been, easily been us up 14-10, because we got the ball on the 15-yard line and we got two penalties back to back that pushed us back to the 30. So it was a situation where we hurt ourselves in that situation. We could have been up, by 4 points, as opposed to being down by 3. And then we
Right.
come out in the second half and we poor tackling, bad execution. We get the ball down to the 1-yard line, we throw an interception. So there are things that happened in that game where we weren't focused on what we needed to be. So coming off of a loss and coming into a bye, it's even more critical, because you want to make sure the mindset is where it's supposed to be at. And these guys understand that not only do they have an opportunity to get better this week, we just let the opportunity slip away by not getting better and doing what we need to do during game time.
Talk about the way that an environment, especially a home game for an opposing team, with you being the away team, when you get an interception in the red zone, let alone a 1 yard line, the way the momentum swings in favor, especially a home team.
Oh, big time. There's no doubt about it. And people don't understand, it doesn't matter when you get a turnover. Turnovers are bad. Even
Yeah,
when guys like they're throwing the ball up in halftime and they end up getting picked. That's bad, because like you said, momentum is shifted, because that team's mindset is we just took the ball away from you.
Yeah.
The stands, the fans' mindset is, oh, we just got the ball. It doesn't matter when the situation happened. If it's on a punt, and some people say, well, that was just as good as a punt. No, it's not. It's not as good as a punt because it's a turnover. You can't. I don't care how far down the field it is. You just gave that team the attitude of, we got a ball. We got to make sure we're punching in. We got to put ourselves in a good position, as opposed to punting into them and saying, oh, it may be bad field position. That's what people don't understand. When it's a turnover, if it's a turnover and they catch it at the 10-yard line, man, we just got a turnover. If you punt it to the 10-yard line, you got great field position because it's the mindset of the team that you're going against. And when you do things like that and you turn the ball over, it's like you said, the fans are in tune now. They're excited about it. And that offense is like, man, we got to do something to make sure that this doesn't go unwavered, with our defense doing what they need to do on the field. Now we got to make sure we take care of business and punch this thing in the end zone.
Right. And the other part about that is it's a difference in emotional swing as well, right?
Absolutely.
Because the difference in the emotional swing is you punting it to the 10, the fans isn't happy. No. You getting an interception at the fans are happy. So there's a difference in the support that the team has behind them as well in those two scenarios.
Absolutely. Because like you said, if it's a punt and we down it on the 10 or they down on the 10, their mindset is, man, we're already back to the 10-yard line. But like you said, you're going in for a touchdown and they intercepted on the 10. Oh, we just got to pick. We can take this thing to the house. So like you said, it's totally different. Again, the opportunity of thinking we just got it on the 10 or they just downed it on the 10. Totally two different things. Now it's your responsibility as a team to go out there and capitalize on that. So when we made that big mistake, and like I said, we made a bunch of mistakes in the second half that ended up costing us the game, but a lot of them was, turnover and, missed tackles and things that drive me nuts. Again, they were a great football team. Don't get me wrong. Eastern Kentucky was a great football team, but it's a situation where we couldn't make the mistakes we made and expect to stay in the football game because they were a good football team.
Right. Last week's opportunity with, being able to rest, relax, and re-energize themselves for this coming week, being a responsibility of now, resetting, going into this week against Delaware State.
Absolutely.
And it's a home game that you guys are hosting. So talk to me a little bit about the opponent and some of the things that you feel that they do well, that you're keeping an eye on.
Well, the best thing the thing they do well, the thing they do well is they run the ball well because their quarterback is a phenomenal player. And he's phenomenal with his legs as well as he is with his arm. And he's still a young guy, so he doesn't throw it, with the preciseness that he does. But when he sees an opening, he breaks, he runs well. They're 1-4, but they're not a 1-4 team, if you know what I mean. Running backs are good. Running back has real good speed. He's a transfer from Lafayette. My man's about 235 pounds, about 6'2". About 6 foot, 235, and he runs hard and he runs downhill. The offensive line averages about 6'3", 6'4", about 290. And they got a receiver who's about 6'1", and he's about 185 pounds. He catches the ball well and does a good job. So they have a great offense, but they also have a defensive tackle who I think is tenacious, gets after it. He's probably about 6'1". He's about 265, 270. My man has a motor, and he goes all day long. They got a group of linebackers that are pretty daggone. They have pretty good speed. So they're a good football team, and they're a solid special team. Their punter is also their kicker, who's also their field goal kicker.
Wow.
And the guy does a great job. He kicks the ball deep. I think he has like 4 or 5 touchbacks. He averages 41 yards on a punt, and I think he's 3 for 7 on his field goals. But there've been some long field goals that he's missed, not short ones. So they're a good football team. They get after it, and Coach Lee Hole does a good job coaching them. And again, the last time we played these guys back in 22, they beat us, and we went there. So that's in our mind too. And plus, they're homecoming. So of course they're coming in thinking, okay, why they have us as homecoming? It kind of just felt that way. It wasn't like we were like, hey, let's make Dell State homecoming. No, that had nothing to do with it. It just kind of felt that way. That's where they want to put homecoming. So it's one of those things. So that's an added incentive for them. So we got to make sure we overcome that, and we overcome that incentive because their mindset's coming in. Oh, they think we're a homecoming team. You know how people think about homecoming. So we got to make sure we're on top of those things and make sure we don't get a letdown, just because it's homecoming for us.
Right. Yeah. Anytime you have an opponent on your homecoming schedule, automatic thought process is this should be an easy win.
Yeah, and it's not. Trust me, that is not what we're thinking. I mean,
Right.
again, even though they've lost some games, but they played Hawaii tough. I mean, the score was 14-14 at halftime. They played Hawaii tough, and they went up to Campbell and they put up 41 points against Campbell. So they've done a good job. They put up, I think, they lost 28-17 last week against St. Francis. So this is a good football team. They move the ball well. Defensively, they do a great job of stopping people. The defense coordinator is a great guy. The head coach is a good guy. Like I said, and we've given them an incentive. So we got to make sure,
Right.
we do what we need to do and do it early.
So it sounds like this week definitely is a week where sound and short tackling is, as it is every week, a priority.
Mm-hmm.
But so this week, when you talk about a 6 foot, 230+ pound running back going downhill,
Yes, yes. And he's
that's
coming. And again, and the other guy that's, like I said, he's elusive, does some great. That quarterback, number 5, my man's an outstanding football player. He does a good job of making people miss. He's second on the team in rushing. So it's one of those things. So we got to make sure we stay in our rush lanes as a defensive line. We got to be disciplined enough to stay in our rush lane. We got to make sure we know what our responsibility is. Again,
right.
the word of the week, and that's why the word of the week is there, because we got to do our responsibility in order to maintain what we need to do against this team.
Yeah. Contrary to what happened with Eastern Kentucky, what are you looking more forward to this week from your offensive unit?
Offensively, we want to get our run game going. That's always, you and I talk about that each week's pits, and we got 3 outstanding running backs that we feel real good about, and we want to make sure we get that going. The crazy part is we lost Hayden Barron. We lost Hayden, one of our best offensive linemen, so that's a tough situation. We've been moving the offensive line around a little bit to see if we can find a fix there. So that's one of the situations. Our tight ends, they have to come into the mix now when it comes to blocking, make sure we keep a more steady line up front. Want to protect Chicken. We want to make sure we're protecting him. They do a good job of getting after the quarterback. Want to make sure we give him a nice pocket. He's been getting hit a little bit too much lately. I'm not real happy about it when he's been getting hit. He's been getting the ball off, but still, hits hurt worse
They
than
add up.
sacks.
They add up to a body as well.
Yeah, they're worse than sacks sometimes. If you hit a guy hard enough, they're worse than sacks. So I want to make sure our guys understand the importance of protecting our quarterback and getting our running game going. It's important to get the running game going. And, we're always going to try to get the receivers involved. But to me, the most important thing is you can get that running game going and receivers can get involved.
Talk about the importance of, and this is a conversation that I've been having a lot of in regards to football in itself. When you have an offensive line, and within the offensive line, that's one of the units in the sport where chemistry is of most important, right? If you have no chemistry on the offensive line, um, it's very hard to get a lot of things going. So if you can you just talk about the importance of an offensive line, whether you're dealing with injuries, whether you're dealing with poor play, or it's just not getting it done, especially with a new unit or a fresh group. Like you guys had to deal with last year, offensive rotation, because you guys were ailing at that position. You had a great week, then you lose one, then the next week you'll lose another one. So can you talk about the importance that the importance and the chemistry that the offensive line needs to have in regards to successful game planning and positive yardage within between the game?
Well, all those things come into play that you talked about, but the most important thing is when it comes to game planning, because if you have an offensive line that you're not 100% sure about, then you don't know if you can slide protect, you don't know if you can man protect, you don't know if you can zone protect when it comes to protecting the quarterback. And what can I run now? Can I run a counter? Can I run inside zone? Can I run duo? What do you do better than you did before? Like I said, we lost Hayden. Hayden's a big part of our offensive line. And we
Right.
lost some guys early on, and now we're getting those guys back. So we're trying to put those pieces back together without Hayden. So we got this guy here and this guy here, and we're getting some other guys that were injured. We're getting those guys back. So now we got to put this guy in there. So it's like you said, that was the great thing about last week, being able to get ourselves ready for that situation, because we knew that we had to put some new pieces into the offensive line. But when it comes to the continuity of the offensive line, probably the one thing that jumps out of me and something that the listeners will understand is, if you remember the 2020 Super Bowl, when the Chiefs lost 2 of their starting offensive linemen,
Yeah.
and it just wasn't the same. If you notice, the Buccaneers were killing them. They were sacking. They were putting more pressure on.
Yeah. And they weren't even blitzing.
Oh yeah, they were putting more pressure on Patrick Mahomes than they ever had before, just with the front four. And they were getting
Yeah.
after him with the front four because they didn't have that same offensive line that they had all year. Two of those guys went down, I think, in the AFC Championship or right before the Super Bowl or something like that.
Yep.
Those
And
guys
one
went,
went down in the Super Bowl.
and they couldn't rebuild because now you got guys, even though you have professionals and even though you guys have guys that are good football players, they haven't been playing together. And a lot of times, like you said, when it comes to the offensive line, that cohesiveness is extremely important, that they play together, they rally together because they're on the same page when they do those things. So that's probably the best way to put it, because we noticed the next year when they got them back, they won a Super Bowl. Then the next
Right.
year they won, because that offensive line is extremely important. That's the one thing that probably drives me crazy when people say, when Tom Brady was at the Patriots, he won 6 Super Bowls. Yeah, so did the offensive line in front of it. So no one talks about that offensive line that won 6 Super Bowls. They talk about the quarterback, which is the most important position on the football field. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, if you don't have a cohesiveness with that offensive line, it's going to be tough to win football games.
And I mentioned that, and I say that because on another show that I was a part of, that pertained to the Steelers, that's been one of my biggest things, and trying to just get and I'm understanding that there's a difference between people who watch football and I mean who are fans of football,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are those who actually watch it, they understand it. And they don't just understand it from a win-loss perspective. They understand it from, it's not just 11 on 11. There are certain things that these 11 individuals are supposed to be doing. And when you have 5 of them who are they are the fence, they are the wall from you getting to the treasure, and they have no continuity or they have no chemistry, then you're kind of like in a recipe for like, it's like with the potluck. You don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know if you're
100%.
gonna
Yeah.
you don't know if you're gonna like it. You don't know if you're gonna love it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you might get a surprise in a potluck.
And you don't know who cooked it. And that's that's the other issue. You don't know who the
Yeah.
chef is in this situation. So you're 100% correct. There's no doubt about it. And like you said, it goes back to people that actually are fans of football and people that actually watch football. And it's one of those things where I always mess with my buddies in Tampa because they're always talking about this coach can't do this coach can't do that. I said, guys, what it boils down to, there's 2 things that every man in America can do. He can grill,
Yes.
and he can coach football. So I get it. It's one of those things that every man in America thinks he can coach football, which is fine, but it's not easy. And it's not the coaching I'm talking about that's difficulty. What I tell people all the time, it's not that. What's
Right.
difficult about coaching is dealing with personalities. And I'm not just talking about personalities on the football field. I'm talking about the players. I'm talking about the coaches. I'm talking about the trainers. I'm talking about the equipment guy. I'm talking about the strength and conditioning coach. And you're trying to get all these personalities to come together and have the same mindset of what you need to do in order to win this football game. That's the difficulties of a head coach. It's not about the X's and the O's. It's about managing the Jimmys and the Joes, which people always say. And that's what it's about. That's what people, it goes back to exactly what you said. As a coach, what 5 guys do I need to put on that offensive line that are going to give the quarterback the best protection, that's going to block the best for the running game, that's going to make sure we can get the routes running we need to have run. And at the same time, they got to be able to communicate and let each other know who's blitzing, who's not blitzing. We're picking up these 5. We got to make sure the running backs go get the 6th guy. So that's a lot of talking, a lot of communication between 5 guys that has to happen. And it's extremely important. So when people don't understand it and they're just seeing the wins and losses, it's like, no, it's not just about that. There's some other things that are going on that have to be taken care of. And you see why some teams are extremely successful and some
Right.
teams aren't as successful.
Right. And so we get back to this week. Definitely looking for, a fast start. You're home, it's homecoming. If given the opportunity, are we receiving or are we putting the defense on the field?
We're probably going to receive the ball. And the reason I want to receive the ball because I think their offense is dynamic. I really do. I'm not saying we're going to run the ball down the defense's throat. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I think their offense is dynamic. And I think if we can keep them off, the longer we can keep them off the field, the more comfortable I feel about some things. And the more we can generate a running game early, I think that's extremely important. So that's kind of the way we're leaning right now. And again, I can wake up on Saturday morning and be like, nah, I want to put the defense out there first and see if they can stop them. So the way I'm leaning right now, it'll be the offense on the field first, trying to make sure we can make some things come. But again, they're going to call the coin toss. So they may be thinking the same way I'm thinking that, hey,
Right.
put our offense out there. Let's see if we can get some points early, get up on them and go from there. So it's one of them situations. But my mindset right now is offense first.
And last thing before I let you go, Coach, is that One thing before I let you go, how is mom's in Florida?
Man, she's good, man. Thanks for asking. The family is good, man. You have no idea. This morning, man, Pitts, I woke up. I was freaking I was in tears, man, because I was so happy that her and my family were safe, man. I was like thanking God. All morning on the phone, my wife cries She's like, "You all right?" I said, "I'm just thanking God that my family's okay. My family's excited. They're excited about what's going on. No structural damages to the houses that my family lives
Good.
in. So that's a great thing. Small minor things, trees down and stuff like that, but nothing major. And my wife's family also, because she's in Florida. Her family's in
Okay.
Florida also. So things are good there. So thanks for asking.
Lastly, hey, I know what Pittsburgh weather is. Tell me, is it getting cold yet?
It's chilly. It's chilly. It ain't getting cold yet, but you know how I feel about it. If it get 50, I'm going out in a sweatsuit. So I got on sweats. I ain't trying to walk out there in no shorts no more. The shorts days are over. I can tell you that right now. Only time I
You at
wear
the top
shorts,
of a hill.
I walk from this. Only time I wear shorts is from the car to the workout area. Once I go in there, workout, lift weights, that's all the fur I walk when it comes to shorts, man. It's just how I am when it comes to cold weather. And it ain't just cold in Pittsburgh. It's dark. It ain't no sun. That's the bad thing about Pittsburgh. There's just no sun.
Don't shade my city like that. Don't
Hey,
shade my city like
I,
that.
I tell you what I tell you. I love Pittsburgh, man. There's no other place to coach football. This is one of the greatest cities when it comes to sports. They're outstanding, man. But the weather's just horrible. And you keep forgetting I'm from Florida, so any guy from
Right.
Florida, I know we got
Sunny
hurricanes in
Florida.
Florida, but we got that sunshine. As a matter of fact, the crazy part is a lot of people after the hurricane they're showing the sun out. The sun's out and everything's beautiful. They got trees down, but the sun's out. And everything's fine even after the hurricane. So that's crazy.
Well, I appreciate you, man. I'm glad that you and mom's family is safe. Praying for those in Florida who have
Absolutely.
issues, who have structural damage. Praying for their spirits and safety. And coach, it's
Absolutely.
game day Saturday. Delaware State coming to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Hey, man, we got the Hornets this Saturday, man. We want to make sure we get things going early and do what we need to do. And let's go, Bobby Mo.
Y'all heard it here, man. Me and Coach Bernard Clark Jr., aka Through the Eye of the Tiger. I'm your host, Terrence Pitts. Pitts and Foot Sports Talk Radio, Pitt Sports Zone. Bowie TV is going down. Listen, me and Coach touch base back in on Saturday morning before the game. Hey, it's homecoming. I know they better be turning up on campus.
Hey, man, it better get loud and crazy. And I see you at 11 a.m. on Saturday.
11 a.m. sharp. I'll holler at you, Coach. Thank you guys and enjoy the rest of y'all Thursday evening.
We're out. Much love.